According to the Webster Dictionary, the definition of isolate is to set apart from others. Most of the time when I think of isolation, I think about the prisoners that have done something so bad that they cannot be in the general population with other inmates. But in my speech today, I will be talking about the isolation and long-term care facilities and what the impact has on those residents. Almost a quarter, 24% of Americans in the community aged 65 and older are considered to be socially isolated. When you look at long-term facilities, that number almost doubles to 42%. A study in one nursing home using UCLA's loneliness scale found that 25% of residents are moderately lonely and the other 75% are severely lonely. And obviously when COVID became a worldwide pandemic, those numbers went up even higher. When COVID hit, I think I can honestly say that none of us knew what to do besides to listen to the CDC and the World Health Organization, to what the CDC and the World Health Organization told us to do, which was to stay home and only leave if we had to. When it came to nursing homes, we were told to isolate residents, keep them in their rooms, and not to allow anyone but staff into the building. That basically means that residents were stuck in their rooms 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, eating their meals in their rooms, being given bed baths in their rooms, not leaving for anything other to go to the bathroom if they can't use the one in their room, or eat, and even then they have to wear a mask and then go right back to their rooms. Residents literally went from basically being able to do what they wanted at any time, go outside, see other residents on other units, play bingo, Keno, go out of the building with their families and spend time with them all in one day that was all taken away from them. They weren't allowed to have recreational therapy or activities come to their rooms, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, nothing. The only form of entertainment they had was their TVs, radios, themselves, and their roommates if they have one. When it comes to being alone for long periods of time, there are some people that thrive and are perfectly okay with being by themselves. And in nursing homes, I can tell you, there are very few people that are that way. In an article published in 2020, residents in long-term care facilities with strict isolation experienced depression, anxiety, worsening dementia, and also failure to thrive. They also go on to say that the physical and psychological well-being of residents have been tremendously impacted by the isolation and restrictions, and that prolonged isolation may be deadly. In the time when residents were told to stay in their rooms, staff would go to the rooms to help with cares and try to talk to the residents as much as possible so they could have some social interaction. Obviously, that was not the social interaction that residents craved. They wanted to be able to see and spend time with their families. And at that time, we did our best to try and connect residents with their families through phone calls and video calls. It wasn't until June that residents were finally able to see their family members, but they had to be 6 feet apart, and there was no touching. And the visits lasted only 30 minutes. I can say with my own experience working in a long-term care facility that I can see the difference in the residents that I take care of. Some are more withdrawn, some have gone silent and have become more confused, and some have just given up completely. And that is where the failure to thrive comes in. Even though restrictions have lightened up and residents have received their COVID vaccines, there are still a lot of things that they cannot do. They can't see their families whenever they would like, and they have to set up appointments with their social worker to set up a time for that. And again, they have to be 6 feet apart. They're only allowed 6 people in the dining room, which means that not everyone can be out in the dining room at once, leaving some residents still in their rooms by themselves. When they aren't eating, they have to wear their masks and they have to be 6 feet away to socialize with their peers. I guess what I'm trying to say with all of this is that even though some restrictions have lightened, these residents will never be the same. Them being isolated for so long has and will continue to have long-term effects on the residents that I take care of and other residents in other long-term care facilities.